I guess it took about 8 years from when the idea first came to me to finishing the movie. During those 8 years, obviously, a big chunk of it was Gravity. You know, I wrote the first draft of Desierto and showed it to my dad, so he gave me notes and feedback, and instead of giving me notes and feedback, he said, oh, I want to do something like this. So we adapted Desierto to the space, and it became Gravity. So, so I guess between Gravity, finding locations, putting the whole project together was about 8 years. I've always seen filmmaking as a narrative thing. So, you know, you start as a writer and you rewrite your screenplay many times, but then once you're filming with the actors and stuff, you keep rewriting and discovering new things. So to me, it's also very important to also edit my films, because that's the last chance you have to, like, rewrite the story. And I guess the producer hat is one that I wish I didn't have to wear, but when it's your first movie, you're kind of the only person that believes in yourself, so unless you start producing it yourself, no one else will. Yeah, I guess in any project I do, I end up asking for their feedback and their advice almost every step I take, so obviously the collaboration between the three of us is always very important. And in the case of Desierto, it was a little bit the same. Carlos also helped me set up the project in Mexico. So in that sense, we always collaborate with each other. It just, I guess this is the first time I was fair and decided to give them credit for their input. Well, not only Gael is one of the Mexican actors I admire the most, and since I was little, since I started doing cinema, I really wanted to work with him, you know. I think what he does is very interesting. But also, as I was researching the film, I kept coming across documentaries that Gael had produced, directed, and even acted in some of them. So I knew that Gael already understood the character in a very close and personal way. Well, I really wanted Sam to not be a flat character. Even though he was a villain, I wanted him to be a very human villain. And you know, since I met Jeffrey, you know, he's a big, strong guy, so he's intimidating. But on the other hand, he's very emotional, so I knew he could give the character this very wide spectrum of emotions. Well, since I wrote the script, I knew the dog was going to be an important character, but when I showed it to my dad and my uncle, their first note was like, you have to get rid of the dog, it's going to be a nightmare. But I ended up not listening to them because I really knew that the dog was perhaps one of the most important characters. So I spent several years looking for dogs everywhere, and finally I found these dogs in Mexico. They're actually not trained for cinema, they're more trained for security reasons. And as soon as I saw those animals, I even had to rewrite the script, but not to diminish what they did, but actually because I realized that those dogs could even do more than what I expected. The biggest challenge in the film was filming in the desert itself. I chose locations that were very remote. We had to drive up over 2 hours in a dirt road, and once we got to location, we had to carry the equipment all the way to the set. There were snakes everywhere, the heat, the dust. So in general, just filming in that location was the biggest challenge. I knew since I started writing the movie that the desert was going to be perhaps the most important character. So I spent over 4 years traveling all over, like looking at different deserts. I saw most deserts in the US. I went to Spain, where Sergio Leone filmed all his westerns. And then I saw most deserts in Mexico. And I ended up choosing this desert in La Paz because in a small area, it offered you the whole spectrum of landscapes I needed.
Yo le dije que se lo iba a traer de vuelta sano y salvo. エスケープ